Okay, the watch list video for Monday, September 26th. Before I go into what I'm going to be watching on Monday, I'm going to slide over this screenshot. This is just a screenshot I took off of at Daytrader Wayne. He is a moderator in our chat room. I took this off of his Twitter homepage. Give him a follow. But more importantly than that, and there it is at Daytrader Wayne. More importantly than that, if it's not still the top tweet on his page, scroll down a little bit. He doesn't tweet a lot, but check out this struggling as a day trader. Here's something that might help you. Check out that blog post. It's fantastic. It's all about tracking your trades, and he is, for lack of a better term, extremely thorough at tracking his own trades still after all these years. And he, from our first trading course in August, he has created for that course a trade tracker that people can use in conjunction with the setups that we teach. And a lot of traders have just had an eye-opening experience using his trade tracker. I highly recommend it because if you're not consistent as a trader, right? If you're not consistently profitable, most traders, if you ask them why, they won't know, right? Oh, I just had a bad day, or the market's rigged, or this or that, or this tracker, once you start filling it out and then you go back and analyze your trades and it breaks it down into time of day, it breaks it down into everything, then it becomes crystal clear. You can say, wow, here's where I'm losing money, here's where I'm making my most money, and then you can focus all your efforts into just making money. So it's a fantastic tool, but the article or the blog post, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely worth a read. I love what he's done there. So, all right, enough of that. SPY, you know what? I just like to view the SPY as where it is in its recent range. Okay, so I mean, it's not that hard to see a clearly defined range. This used to be resistance, right? Now it's becoming support. And so really you're just in a range from, approximately, I'll give you some rough numbers, close to 220 and close to 212 on the bottom of the range. So you're really in an $8 range, right? And you can see here we're at 216-ish. So, we're close to sitting right in the middle of that $8 range, right? So there's not really a trend going on. So what we do is we just look for individual stocks that are setting up and trade them as long as we're not fighting a trend. And right now we're right in the middle of its range, also sitting at the 20-day. So anyway, here's what I've got for tomorrow. This is a weird looking, somewhat ugly chart, but it's a tiny float and it's getting massive volume lately. Seems to have found support. This is RGSE. Seems to have found support around $2. Actually had this on watch for Friday and called it out in the room when it was getting volume, right around $2, 203, 204, and it got a quick move to 225. Percentage-wise, that's a nice move. And actually, I made a really nice chunk of money on that just by having it on the watch list and catching it right about here, right? And then scaling out into the pop like we teach. Ended up giving it back. But, if you go to the weekly, and then we've got to zoom in, you're down, 3 weeks in a row, a somewhat narrow range last week on massive volume. With the tiny float, this one's worth watching. It can, as you saw from what I just showed you on Friday, it can get nice intraday moves. And solar's actually starting to become back in favor a little bit. If you look at First Solar, getting volume, a nice pop, Solar City. So anyway, it's worth keeping RGSE on watch, right? It doesn't cost you anything to have it on a chart. Just make sure you only enter on a proper intraday setup, right? That's the only trades I'll take, is if they're meeting my A+ setup parameters. So BLRX just had a nice breakout on Friday. Gave back some of its gains, but it's worth watching, maybe a red to green or something like that. The volume is certainly interesting. PTCT is really still kind of flagging. A couple things I don't like about it is, one, it's 3 green days in a row. 2, you have the 200-day just above. But it's worth having on a chart because you did have really nice volume on the day that it broke out, which, by the way, we had it on watch that day. And now it's kind of flagging again. ENDP, nice little breakout of an extremely tight range for the past month, right? Big volume breakout. We'll be looking for a red to green, something like that in ENDP, MRNS. Kind of the same setup, right? All of a sudden, a big breakout of a range on big volume. Maybe a red to green there. SAEX had this one on watch because of this volume day on Thursday, and then on Friday it put in a red day on lower volume, so it just goes on bounce watch, right? The reason it's interesting, tiny float, and back here it went from 1019 to 49, and it is not a typo, in one day, and then the next day was over 70 or somewhere around $75. So insane move, and then it's done nothing ever since. All of a sudden volume coming back in. This could be a third day play. You had the boom, you had the lower volume pullback. This one might rip on Monday. We're certainly going to watch it. Again, only with a proper intraday setup. CYCC is extremely obscure here, but it did have a big pop back here. It had a really big move back here, and then it's kind of fallen into nothing. Look at the volume. But you had a nice move from 5 to over 6 over the course of about 4 sessions, and now you're 3 days lower on declining volume. So this is one that I don't love because I try to focus on stuff that has had really high relative volume in the past week. That is where I make 95% of my money. This one, when you have to start going back a month and then 3 months or whatever to see the big moves, they're a lot less effective, but I'm still going to keep it on my radar. And then CRBP is my last one. Pretty short list for Monday. Hopefully we'll find some gappers as well. But this one had a huge move, right? From 4 to almost 8 over the course of, I don't know, a couple weeks. Then started chopping around. Now it's coming back in. I'd like to see it flush below 6 maybe and get down to that 20-day and maybe look for an intraday reversal there. So that one goes on my radar too. I mean, I really like the volume and the big push, and now 2-day pullback. I think it needs to come in another day, but it goes on my radar starting tomorrow. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and we'll talk to you on Monday.